In the last 5 years, Britain has witnessed a disturbing new crime. Young children are being abused and even murdered by parents and relatives. The abusers claim the children are possessed by evil spirits. Adam, Victoria Climbier, and Child B, a roll call of children whose death and torture has sent shockwaves across Britain. Dr. Richard Hoskins was an expert witness in all these cases.
All the individuals that were found guilty in these cases were Christians who were worshipping in certain churches. Now the question that arises in my mind, therefore, is how responsibly are the churches preaching about the dangers of belief in that witchcraft?
Richard Hoskins is about to embark on a journey to the heart of this disturbing phenomenon. He's in search of a young London child, one of a number who've been sent back to Africa to be exorcised in the name of God. It is a journey that will take him from the streets of Britain to the remote villages of the Congo and face to face with the horrifying realities of exorcism in the 21st century.
I declare you healed.
It's Sunday. The Congolese capital, Kinshasa, is awash with religious fervour. The stadium where Muhammad Ali and George Foreman once fought the rumble in the jungle is now the setting for more spiritual battles. Unlike in Britain, Christianity is growing in popularity. But here, it is mixed with a belief in traditional forces. The most evil forces of all are known as KINDOKI. KINDOKI, or witchcraft, has always been part of traditional Congolese beliefs. But after being absorbed into Christianity, the dread believers have for this evil power has grown. Now, KINDOKI is thought to have the power to actually possess people, especially children, and for these spirits to possess others in turn. It has to be driven out through exorcism, known here as deliverance.
You shall call his name Jesus. I declare you healed.
Dr. Richard Hoskins is Senior Research Fellow in the Sociology of Religion at King's College London and is a specialist in African belief. He lived in Africa for many years and is an advisor to the police and courts.
African communities in the United Kingdom are rightly fearful of an unjust backlash from the sensational reporting of child abuse cases associated with witchcraft. But, on the other hand, we must be vigilant to protect innocent children from appalling abuse.
In the last 2 or 3 years, a number of cases have come to light in Britain. Now, what I need to find out is the scale of this problem. If a child is being abused, that has to be stopped. Now, there are 4 categories of child abuse under UK law. There's physical, sexual, emotional, and neglect. But what's not clear is how you apply those categories to cross-cultural issues. So, for example, an African person might have a practice that they think is part of their tradition that we would consider in the UK constitutes actual child abuse, and that is where the problem arises.
Recently, an 8-year-old girl was starved and tortured in London. Child B, as she was known during the court case, was denied food and water for 3 days. But it didn't end there. Each one of these numbers represents an injury, 43 in total. She was cut, kicked, repeatedly whipped with a belt. She had chili peppers rubbed in her eyes. At one point, she was put in a laundry bag and her abusers threatened to drown her. Perhaps most shocking of all, this abuse was carried out by devout Christians from her own family. The motive, it emerged, was to drive out the the KINDOKI spirit. The story was given blanket coverage in the tabloid press. Hoskins was an expert witness in the child B case. He feels that despite the press attention, the full story was never explained.
In the name of Jesus, somebody.
So he's revisiting the church where child B's family used to worship.
You shall call his name Jesus.
Child B's mother and aunt became convinced that this little girl had been possessed by Kindoki. The judge called it torture and gave a maximum sentence out on the two women involved. Christians worshipping here whilst the little girl's tied up in a laundry bag back at the house. She was found on the steps of her house a week after the abuse really kicked off, shivering, totally undernourished and eaten and drunk, because that was part of the idea of the deliverance from this Kindoki. Police had no idea what on earth this was all about. What is this Kindoki? What's this witchcraft, they said. So they called me in and asked me to help them with the investigation.
Hoskins argues it is the practice of deliverance that is central to an understanding of these child abuse cases.
Deliverance means setting a person free from the Kindoki that's inside them. It means casting that Kindoki actually out of their body so that it's forcibly removed from them and hopefully never comes back. And it can be almost instantaneous. But more often than not, it's a process that involves the pastor's help. That may be through prayer, through fasting the child, and sometimes through actual physical contact. And the border that gets crossed there very easily is into abuse.
This is the church where child B's family worshipped, now in a new location. All over the UK, new African evangelical churches are flourishing. Today, over half of all churchgoers in the UK have their origins in Africa.
The church in Africa has grown and spread over the past 100 years, but has really taken off in the last 10 to 20 years. They've reformed and reshaped Christianity in their own culture and context. An African scholar once said of Africans that for them religion is a way of life, and I think that's very true. There isn't that same distinction that we have in the West between religion and everyday life. For most Africans, everyday life is religious.
Dans le nom de Jésus, avant que cette adoration de tout se termine, tu verras quelque chose. Dieu va te visiter, Dieu va te délivrer, il va faire de grandes choses dans ta vie. Si tu es d'accord avec moi, dis Alléluia.
Most Congolese pastors are regarded as leaders of their community. Many of the new churches in Britain are looked to for support and guidance by people trying to make their way in unfamiliar circumstances. This worldwide ministry is called Combat Spirituel, Spiritual Warfare. It's run by Elizabeth and Joseph OLANGI, known by their worshippers as Mama and Papa. They almost never speak to journalists, and they're distrustful of the media. They too are filming this interview. Like most Congolese, they continue to believe in the existence of Kindoki and the need to fight it through a practice called deliverance, a form of exorcism, which at its most benign is conducted by prayer alone.
If it's necessary to have deliverance, is it a spiritual one?
Yes, spiritual. Our fight is not physical. We pray, we fight on a spiritual level. Striking them to deliver them? Never, never in a deliverance.
6 months ago, there was a problem in Combat Spirituel. Some people practically tortured a child during deliverance. Not here in the church, but in their own home. It was in all the newspapers. It was pretty negative stuff. Do you have anything to say on the matter?
We have not got the capacity to know what every individual does in their home. Our teachings are public. Never in secret. Open to everyone.
One of the people who listened to the teachings of combat spirituel was Sita Kasanga. She is one of the women convicted of abuse in the Child B case, who regularly worshipped combat spirituel. Hoskins met her in prison, the first time she has spoken since her conviction. This is what she told him of her relationship with the church.
So, Mummy Sita. I wonder if that could be Sita, the aunt.
I don't think this woman spent time here at Combat Spiritual. She did not even attend the classes. If she had, she would have known that we don't give prophecies. She did not master the teachings of our church. The proof is that she even left the church. For us, everything is love. She didn't understand a thing. She already had hatred in her heart.
Kisanga recorded in her diary that she underwent a 21-day religious fast. After a fortnight, she wrote about her concerns that child B was possessed. Her diary also records a number of sermons about the dangers of spirit possession, mainly preached by the head of the London branch of Combat Spirituel, Pastor Raff.
KINDOKI. Ezalokuta. Me awa nazana na note mpe na liteo na yo. Awa.
Alobini na tegi ni.
Awa taki pona likam ya KINDOKI. Awa. So said you.
Dagisa. Bakomi ni makamba komi. Foi yebisa makamba komi. Bakomi. Ona lutanga te yo yebisa makamba komi.
Me bakomi ya
bakomi nini?
Bakomi.
Te yo zolo ba sorcellerie mais ngelo bakomi nini? Ko to yeba makamba komi na kati. Parce que on voit que cette lettre beaucoup ba sorcellerie mais ngelo ba sorcellerie na bakomi nini?
Bakomi.
Tanga makamba lo.
Bakomi ete.
Bakomi nini?
Bakomi ete otiaki pona likambona. So
te bakomi nini? Nagisa ngala tanga papa. Yo za lettre ngape na za lettre. Nagisa ngala tanga parce que nous devons il faut clarifier makamba.
Bon, ça va, nakupesa, mais nakupesa.
Pesa te pesa nga siko na tanga puisque tozala ikomana siko. Ba bien. Oyo mutate ko tuna ebite zanga te na te ibate. Oponga na te ya matia, oziza makamba bana.
Yo oyebaki sitikisanga ya malam. Oyebaki ya malam.
Te na ebite na lokwa mundimino so ngala yeba ka batute na te ya lo banzambe pa batute na ko yeba batute.
Me oyebaki.
Si na yebaki.
Me omona kiboni pona kawana.
Na yebi kawana nzolo bela ngaite.
Oyebi angaza.
Na sola jamais na sita kisenga na mwana na ina sola na jamais. Sita kisenga makamwana oyebi ke sita kisenga lumwa na ministère.
3 people were convicted of abuse in the Child B case and jailed. Some Congolese church leaders acknowledge that the religious and cultural belief in witchcraft has in some cases led to child abuse. Among these pastors, the issue is raising considerable concern.
We have to deal with this according to the law and according to the Bible without doing any harm to the adult or to the children. It's been proved in the Bible someone can be possessed by demon spirit. That's what I can say for the first person. We do believe in our culture there is a witch, and in the Bible we can prove as well there is a witch people. Sometimes people, they are called children, they are witch, but they are not a witch. It does happen, and we end up abuse the children, and we want to stop that as well.
After Hoskins had been interviewed on television during the Child B trials, he was approached by a Congolese man. He said he was very concerned about the safety of children in some Congolese Christian communities. He believes the churches are part of the problem and agreed to go undercover to investigate. We've called him Claude.
People are afraid of the pastor because the pastor are considered like small gods within the community. The pastor are using that to get power over people. If a pastor can be found that he's got that power to manipulate Kindoki, people will be following him. He will get more people in his church. Children have been victims of exorcism, and I think it's my moral responsibility to help sort this problem out.
Claude is going to find a video which he believes will demonstrate just how damaging accusations of Kindoki possession can be, not just for the child, but also for parents. This video was made by Pastor Moria, a Congolese pastor in control of the Faith and Victory Church in London. Pastor Moria denounced this woman as a witch. At the time of the recording, she was in a psychiatric hospital. Pastor Moria is heard encouraging her to name a list of people possessed with Kindoki. Claude has located some of the women denounced as witches in the video. They say their lives have been devastated.
How could he show me on the video? He even sent the tape to my hometown. I've been getting phone calls from people saying to me, "Oh, we hear you've got witchcraft." People tell me that I've become extremely nervous. I've lost my confidence with other people now. I'm always stressed. Sometimes when I go to sleep, I suddenly wake up and find myself crying out. So I've gone through hell. When I saw the cassette, I went to the police. Until today, I've not heard one single thing.
The women are going to confront the pastor face to face. They say it's the only way to put the issue behind them and move on with their lives. We asked Pastor Moria for an interview, but the request was not taken up. So Claude meets him in private, equipped with a hidden camera. The pastor claims to have witnessed supernatural events.
A changé longa zo longa koko moko a changé a zo longa mususu musa zo longa bana mibali kaka ndenge.
He said to me,
This woman's child was also accused of having Kindoki. The effects have been devastating.
If I die, I know my child will go through hell. If I die, my child has had it. She will go through such suffering. I want to bring up my child. If someone else bringing her up, they will annihilate her because of the konyokola she's been accused of.
Unlike this woman, some Congolese parents do believe their own children are genuinely infected with Kindoki. And unlike the case of child B, where a cure was attempted in the UK, some are sending their children back to the Congo